So just let me know when you're ready. Okay? All righty. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, el día 5 de mayo. It is 6 o'clock. Actually, it is 6:01. I hereby call this meeting to order. If we can take roll call and have the determination of a quorum, please.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
Here.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
Honored to be with you all.
Counselor John Ritchie,
Present.
Committee Chair
Never mind.
Justin Salazar
I've got it.
Torres.
Present. Looks like we've got ourselves a quorum. Now, for those of you that aren't speaking just yet, if you may mute your mic, that would be great. All righty, just so there was a lot of background noise. Fellow counselors, before you, we have the agenda. If I can have a motion for the agenda, please.
Motion
So
to
moved.
approve.
All righty, we've got a motion from Counselor John Ritchie and a second from both Counselor Manny Martinez and Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez. If we can get a roll call vote, por favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
Also in favor.
Counselor John Ritchie,
In favor.
Committee Chair Justin Salazar Torres.
In favor. Looks like we've got ourselves an agenda. All righty, next item on our agenda is public comments. We do not have anybody signed up for public comments here in chambers. However, I do see Mr. Ortiz on, as well as that is it. So Mr. Ortiz, are you signed up for public comment? Would you like to speak now?
I'm available for questions, Mr. Chairman. I just came to kind of clarify some off-highway vehicle related, whatever you got. So whenever you're ready, I'm more than ready.
Thank you, Mr. Ortiz. Already,
Appreciate it.
Mr. Nathan, you're also on, sir. Do you have any public comments, sir, or you're just here for the meeting?
At this time, Chairman Torres, I am just here to listen to the meeting and see where we're going with this item on the agenda.
Okie dokie. Thank you, senor. All righty. We will hold off just for about 10 more seconds, just to see if anybody walks in or anybody signs on for public comment, just to give the public their opportunity.
Chairman Salazar, why don't we go on, and if anybody comes in, we can always go back to public comment.
We are roughly about 8 seconds in, so I had 2 more seconds, but we will move on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
No
sorry.
problem. Next item on our agenda, counselors, before you is the approval of the Public Safety Committee meeting minutes for April the 7th of 2021, counselors.
Move to approve as presented, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
All righty, we have a motion from Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez and a second from Counselor Manny Martinez. If we can have a roll call vote, por favor.
Counselor Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor.
Counselor John Ritchie,
In favor.
Committee Chair Justin Salazar Torres.
In favor. All righty, we've got ourselves some minutes. Next item on our agenda, counselors, is committee member comments. And of course, as always, Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez, ladies first, ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Chairman Salazar Torres. First of all, I just want to comment on the speed radar system that was installed and set up on Valley Drive in the Valley Estate subdivision. I went out there yesterday to take a look at it and see how things were going, and much to my pleasure, it seems as though the traffic has slowed down tremendously. So it obviously seems to be doing the job that it was intended for. So we're very grateful for that. I also look forward to it being used in my district, of course, District 2, and the other districts as well as in different areas of District 4. I'm hopeful that we can set up some kind of a schedule, or that the chief can set up some kind of a schedule where it is being used equitably throughout the city, so that all the citizens have an opportunity to benefit from that machine being able to slow down traffic. Another comment I wanted to make is, I don't know who handled the minutes, but I just want to say that whoever's handling the minutes of the last meeting did an excellent job, and that needs to be recognized. A lot of times we read through our minutes and the story of the meeting isn't really that clear. And in this situation, I can literally relive the events of our last meeting in those minutes. So we definitely appreciate whoever is doing that, and we should recognize that. The other
That
thing
would be
is
Miss
that,
Victoria.
thank you, Miss Victoria. We certainly appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
The other thing is, we haven't done anything in a long time to recognize the public safety sector of our community. We haven't had a public safety appreciation day. We haven't recognized the 911 operators. Those are people who are frontline employees who have been throughout this pandemic, rain or shine, whatever the situation was, frontline. They've been out there along with the fire department and along with the PD. And it's time that we as a public safety committee do something to present to the full council some type of appreciation for the work that they're doing in our community. Other than that, I'm happy to be back. I missed my first meeting in 9 years, and I feel very badly about that, to be honest with you all. I missed the last city council meeting, and it just feels good to be back and excited to see what the future brings for Española, and still committed to do whatever we can to improve things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez. We will move on to Councilor Richie. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. At this time, I don't have any comments.
All righty, Councilor Manny Martinez, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Salazar. Just want to echo Councilor Martinez. I've actually had a few calls from people that live there within Valley Drive that were very ecstatic about the speed limit that was set there in their area. They said that it has been helping immensely to slow down the traffic, along with the speed bumps that were installed. And so they just wanted to really thank the city for making that happen and allowing them that being able to slow down that traffic in that area. So they just wanted to convey their thanks, and same here, sir. Also on just want to I want to also echo Councilor Martinez. We do need to see if we can do something with our to recognize our public safety. I think they've done a heck of a job this whole past year from the pandemic all the way to last year before it even started. We had a lot of issues that they had a lot of issues that they had to deal with, from implementing different mandates that were passed down from the governor's office, and that was asked from our departments and from our council, and they've done a heck of a job, and it shows. And I just think that they deserve the gratitude that's needed for that, sir. But I do have a request for our 911. I'm not sure who we have that is now the liaison for 911, but I have a request from the dispatch, actually, from my coworkers there at Hemis Electric. I know that there's been a few fires that have gone on within the valley in the last few months, house fires, and they were just requesting if they could get more info when it comes to directions, names of the homeowner, anything that they might have when they gather on 911, when they go out.
Monitoring the trees or the leaves or
when they go out to the field, the kind of directions they're getting is like up San Pedro, second entrance to your left. That what's the homeowner's name? We don't have it. That kind of stuff, and that would really help them to be able to get to those house fires, if we could get 911 to get a little bit more on more descriptive on their service addresses of where they're located, and then perhaps the owner or person that's at least calling upon the fire to get an idea of where it's located, sir. I just wanted to pass that along.
Absolutely.
And I see our honorable Judge Martinez here. I just want to thank him for joining us. Sir, it's good to see you. And I know I won't even ask if you're doing a great job because I'm sure you are, sir. So thank you for coming aboard.
All righty. Thank you, Councilor Manny Martinez. All righty. We will move on with other, if there's no other councilor comments. Councilor Peggy Sue, I see your mic unmuted.
I had a follow-up. I send you a private follow-up, please message, but I don't think you opened it. Anyhow, I also wanted to just welcome Mr. Martinez to his first public safety meeting. We certainly appreciate him stepping up to fill in the position as judge, and we recognize his professionalism and his experience. And we're looking definitely forward to seeing what that brings. So excited to have him on board and just wanted to welcome him formally. And then the other thing I wanted to share is with Councilor Manny Martinez is that the mayor is the liaison for 911. So you may want to call him on that situation and communicate the concern that you have. And I think once you do that, I think it's something that can be rectified relatively easily. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Martinez.
All righty. Councilor Ritchie, any?
I just had
You'll have to.
question.
Is your
I
mic
just-
unmuted, sir?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just had a question. I thought the system we had for 911 comes up with the addresses and all the information. I know that they normally can transmit it to the officers or to the fire department, but not HEMIS, but I thought they would have all that information to be able to give that if they're dealing with the HEMIS crew.
I will yield that question to Chief Ron Padilla, sir.
I'm sorry, Counselor, can you repeat the question?
Councilor Ritchie?
I was wondering, I thought the system we have in place that Councilor Martinez, Manning Martinez was questioning that they don't get enough information on the call if there's a fire or an incident that HEMIS is going out to, and they were wanting more information, and I thought our system provided that.
It should. The calls that we do go out to, they give us an address. It should come up. I know that their phone number does definitely come up. And then they give us an address. So maybe it might be just the address that the caller's giving, and that might not be the address that we're going to. And sometimes that does happen.
All right. Thank you.
All righty, Councilor Ritchie. Thank you. If there are no further councilor comments, we will move on to matters from the chair. Councilors, I hear you loud and clear. I will speak to the chief first thing tomorrow since he's not with us tonight. A schedule or some sort of forecast for the radar trailer throughout the city. And then secondly, Councilor Manny Martinez, if you'd like, we can speak to the mayor. We can ask city manager to, or if you'd like to send him an email, that'd be up to you. But would you like me to put that on my to-do list, sir?
Sir, I can go ahead and reach out to the mayor and see if he can ratify this. I'm sure he can. It's just probably just to allow the 911 operators to realize that they do need to, when they do pass it along, just to give full information to them. Just to make sure these guys are able to get to those scenes as fast as they can as well. And but I'll get with the mayor and I'll send him an email. Thank you.
Okay, great. I see a hand up, Lieutenant Jeremy Apodaca, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chair, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to say that myself and Lieutenant Trujillo will be standing in Chief Jimenez's place this evening. I was going to address it in our department updates, but we will be setting up a schedule and moving the speed trailer throughout the city. That way we can target different areas. Right now, we are collecting data with that trailer, and we'll be doing that throughout the city. That way we can better utilize that equipment. But I'll touch base on that more with our department updates.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All righty. Moving on, as well as Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez and Counselor Manny Martinez, I hear you loud and clear in recognition for our public safety committee and departments that are under our purview. So then I'd like to throw the idea out. Our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for June 2nd. Would you all like to pitch in as a committee to host some pizza and maybe some ice cream or something that evening for all those involved in under our purview in public safety? And then therefore, after that, for our first city council meeting in June, then we can do some sort of recognition. Would you all like to do that? I'll yield the floor to you all.
I'm fine with that, sir.
That sounds good to me, sir.
All right, and then with that said, I guess I would respectfully ask that all counselors, as part of this committee, please join us in person for our next meeting. That way we can host our public safety departments and all those under our purview for this committee and give them that respect. So if that would be great, everybody come into chambers. In coordination, I'll ask Ms. Victoria to send out an email so we're not in a quorum, and that we can all see what we're going to pitch in and so forth. All righty, that is all I have from matters from the chair. Actually, I wanted to welcome Your Honor, Mr. Martin Martinez aboard. Thank you for being part of our committee and being with us tonight. Look forward to hearing your department report, sir, when we come to it. Next item on our agenda is the action discussion recommendation items to full council. We have a discussion item is the application to the State Transportation Commission to allow OHV ROVs on paved state highways. I'm not sure who's going to speak on that behalf, if it's going to be City Manager Mr. Martinez or Lieutenant Jeremy Apodaca.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Public Safety Committee. So before you, it's a discussion item, so I'm not really presenting in regards to what we have, but it is a discussion for this committee for the path forward on this application. Excuse me, I need a cough really quick. Sorry about that. I had to clear the throat.
No
Yeah,
worries,
so
sir.
before you on the packet material is actually the requirements to submit the application. As you know, Officer Ortiz is online. Is online as well to address any questions. I just want to excuse me.
Take your time, sir.
I'm good. Thank you. So yeah, if you can see in the packet material, I know there was some comments and requests made earlier in the month and when the ordinance was passed that we should have submitted the application right off the bat. But if you see on item number 2 on part of the prerequisites, it clearly states that the ordinance or resolution that the requesting entity has passed is conforming with the jurisdiction. So we would have to have passed the ordinance first in order to apply for this application.
Right.
So that's why we didn't want to put the cart before the horse, I guess, if you will. So that's why we're presenting this to the committee as a discussion item and to see about answering all those requests and to see it, and once we see what the requests are, to see if it's something that it will have a chance of passing through the State Department that will review this application. So with that said, I stand for any questions, and also thank you, Officer Ortiz, for being present to answer any questions as well.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Alrighty, councilors, I'll yield the floor. Councilor Manny Martinez, anything you'd like to add to this, sir?
Just a quick question. I know it says recreational off-road, off-highway vehicles on paved state highways. So that would be including our main corridors of Oñate and Riverside Drive. Would that be correct? And if so, would that be just within city limits? Is that would that pretty much be what it would entail? And then that would of course include like Fairview Lane or South McCurdy, that's also a state road as well.
And 76.
And 76.
Right, so Councilor Martinez, members of the committee, so just right above item number 1 on letter C, and this is kind of the question that based on, maybe Officer Ortiz can address, but it really specifies designated route. So I think when we submit the application, they're looking for specifics. What segment of roadway is specifically being requested. I know a lot of the items state that they're going to take into consideration the volume of traffic already that resides along these state highways, primarily Highway 68, 84 to 85, Paseo de Oñate, Fairview Drive, and also State Road 106, which is the Eliano Road that circles around the east of Española. So those are the primary roads that we're looking at, and also I guess if you would consider South McCurdy. But those are the prime roads, and then of course you mentioned State Road 76. So all these factors are going to take into consideration for the committee at the state level. That's going to take into consideration what the volume of traffic is already. Is it going to be safe? And also in that factor, right? And also all these state roads that are being requested for permission, do they lead to an off-road trail already? I mean, those are the main factors they're going to be looking at. And correct me if I'm wrong, Officer Ortiz, but I'll go ahead and yield the floor to you. I don't want to take too much of your time.
No, you're 100% correct. Give you the example of Red River and Ruidoso, portions of Grant County where they allow state highway or state road use. They took into consideration the direct access that led to the trails that they approved, up in Red River. Let me try to don't remember exactly the road, but I want to say that is Highway 38 that goes right through Red River. There's access to trails on the north and south side. So that was kind of a no-brainer. In Ruidoso, I think it was their second time around where they really had to justify what trail they were asking for. Because at first they were just saying, we want to utilize Main Street and didn't give any more specifics. But then they came back and said, well, we want to utilize Main Street to get to this portion of a recreational area. So, I mean, you really have to outline exactly, how you're going to go about doing some signage, enforcement, what trails specifically you're looking to gain access to. And really, you don't have to, it's going to be hard because you guys are surrounded by state roads and highways. So you don't have to ask directly for, all of the roads. You can say, okay, we want to utilize, let me get back to the map, but we want to utilize the main road by Walgreens, which was Fairview, exactly. So you can ask for one, I know that goes out to 31 Mile Road. You can ask for that one. It's really up to you guys. But when we spoke earlier about the amount of traffic, I think that's going to be, and the speed limits within the city, that may be a big hiccup for the State Transportation Commission. I know Carlsbad had asked for some state road use within Eddy County. They got denied. I know other cities, City of Las Cruces was asking for, I can't remember which road it was, but they were asking for some state road use, and they got denied just because of the amount of volume and the speed. So it may be an uphill battle, but you never know until you apply.
All right. So, Mr. Ortiz and Honorable City Manager, my question then would be, so at this point during this meeting, are we to give our recommendations or what we'd prefer, which state roads that be on this application? Is that what we're looking for right now? Just so we have a better direction of this meeting?
So you can go about it both ways. You can either say, hey, we want anything that encompasses the city limits, we want to include into our application. Or if you want to be more specific and say, hey, Fairview East, Fairview Lane, they both connect on the east and west side to open forest riding areas. I mean, it's really up to you guys, but I would give them a call before you submit this application and kind of get where they're coming from and see how they feel about the bigger towns, bigger cities asking for state road and highway use.
All right, and Mr. Ortiz, I have one more question before I yield
Certainly.
to counselors.
Certainly.
So for example, say we said all state roads that are within the city of Espanola, within the city limits, would they turn around and say, okay, we'll permit X, Y, and Z road instead of these roads, or do we have to be specific?
They go off your application, so they're going to be specific.
just-
They don't go and cross everything out, black pen it or red pen it. What they'll do is they'll get your recommendation. I recommend calling them first, and then they'll go off of what your application says, and from there they'll give you their yay or nay, if you will.
Okay, sounds good. Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, I see your hand up, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ortiz, for your input on the situation. I'd really like to hear from the other Mr. Ortiz concerning what roads they feel like they could, what's the bare minimum that they feel like they could get around in. And in my view, you're looking at something that runs east to west, of course, to cross the bridge. And then you're looking at something that runs north to south so that there's access to the entities and to the routes that people want to really ride with these vehicles. So in my view, you would have to have at least one of the bridges open, and it makes more sense to me to have Fairview because it's closer to the 31-mile road and all of that. Now, do we really feel like the state would probably approve Riverside Drive, considering that there's 70-some thousand vehicles on that road daily? I find that hard to see that they would go with that. So I would, in my view, in my own personal opinion, I think it's really difficult to see them approving Riverside Drive. Now, okay, that leaves us with North and South McCurdy, and that leaves us with Paseo. I think that's a good way to do it. I would do the Santa Clara Bridge, the McCurdy, Paseo, and the Fairview Bridge. That sort of puts us in a square where people can get anywhere they need to go in our community. So if you wanted to go to Alcalde, you could cut from the Llano side off of McCurdy and go on to the native property before you get onto the highway to go to the Alcalde side. If you want to go to 31-mile road, you would have to cross over to Fairview Lane and then utilize Paseo, the rest of that, to get into the 31-mile area trails. So I think that's a safe way to go. I think if we throw Riverside Drive in the mix, we risk the whole application. So I would just be cautious with that. But other than that, I just have to say to the city manager, I'm excited that we're moving on this. And I just really want to see and hear what Mr. Ortiz has to say about which roads he feels like we could utilize. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Councilor Martinez. So I feel, looking at the map and, knowing Espanola like I do, Paseo de Oñate might be your easiest route. But of course, you were mentioning that you wanted kind of a loop. And, really, I'll give you the example of Farmington. Farmington has street legal use in San Juan County, but nothing. And I don't want to compare it to 550 because I know 550 is a high speed highway, but 285 is pretty fast too. There isn't many street lights between the Lauterberger and Fairview. Yeah, Paseo de Oñate might be your best route. And to find an alternate route or a connecting route, yeah, that Fairview would be your best, but I didn't realize you have that much traffic on there every day. That might be a X factor there.
Alrighty, I will yield the floor to Councilor Manny Martinez. Councilor Martinez,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess a couple of questions I do have is, first of all, are we only talking about, this is only talking about getting from your home to a trail to ride your bike, is that correct?
Correct.
Which are we only looking at 31 mile as the entryway to that? I mean, would we be looking at anything in the Eliano area that would be, or is that off limits? Being there's a large portion that's Native American property. I don't know if there's a main corridor off of Eliano in our area. And the other thing is, how would this impact those that ride these bikes that are, or these vehicles that are going to just head to Sonic or just head to a restaurant to go eat, or or something like that, that aren't actually going to a trail?
Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Martinez. So in the application, it states that it can't be for traveling to private businesses. For there's if anybody can find it, there's a stipulation in there that it will not be considered if you're, let me look for it. Not for the sole benefit of any private interest, business, or organization. It's primarily approved for recreational purposes. Now, if the Sonic and everything else is on a city-owned side street, which I know it's not, but if it was, then you wouldn't have to ask the STC's permission. But yeah, you're correct. Number 7, they kind of stipulated in there that you're not supposed to be using it other than for recreational purposes.
Already, Councilor Ritchie, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I just, the same sentiment that Councilor Peggy Martinez stated. I think the most reasonable is going to be Fairview, because that's your cross from the east to west, and to go north to south would be McCurdy. And then again, for those, I guess there is areas on the east side that you can ride and that would take you out into a Calde. So you would need access out in Eliano. And then for the folks on the west side, it would have to be Paseo that would allow you to run north and south. And so we just have to avoid Riverside all the way, and just unless you're crossing over on Fairview. That's again in emphasizing that it is strictly to get to off-road recreational use, because again, I think a lot of people thought that, hey, I can,
Right.
once this is approved, we can go cruising. No, it's just preventing it, helping them so they don't have to trailer up and go
Right.
across town. So,
So, and just to follow up to that, also keep in mind there is North Railroad Avenue that does cut out a big chunk on the west side of town, just a little bit. That is a city-owned street. So I will yield the floor. I know Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez wanted to hear from Mr. Nathan Ortiz. I do apologize for that. Mr. Ortiz, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, councilors. My thing is, I think what Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, her suggestion, and John Ritchie's suggestion were real good. Not to leave people out in certain areas of town. And like Officer Ortiz said, the slower speeds is probably what we want to do. So, I mean, like the Fairview Lane, the South McCurdy, Eliano maybe, that would probably do for this side of town. On the other side of town, we're kind of our hands tied just with Oñate Street. So I think those streets really have to be put in. So kind of all the streets around and see where we go from there. I mean, and like one of the officers said, we can put from mile marker to mile marker certain areas just within town where the speed limit is under, I think it's, 45? I think highways under 45. But I mean, I would even prefer us to try and do it to where it's 35 or under, and I do agree with like Mr. Officer Ortiz was saying, in that packet, I read through that packet and I forgot what stipulation it was, but yeah, the cruising, that's something that we don't want. Get your fuel, maybe get your foods at a convenience store and get to your trailhead. So our main trailheads are going to probably be 31 Mile Road and BLM land out here behind El Llano, Velarde, that area. And with that BLM land, there's designated trails that'll take us all over. I mean, Truchas, Peñasco, all over the place. So I think what Councilor Ritchie and Councilor Martinez suggested is a real good idea.
And I'm
Thank
going to
you.
have to agree. And Mr. Officer Ortiz, correct me if I'm wrong, but the law does permit the OHVs to cross. They're permitted to cross already. So if they're just crossing, for example, if they're on the west side already, just to cross to get to North Railroad Avenue, then therefore hit Fairview from there and go up to El Llano or go up to 31 Mile, then therefore everything's still in compliance and legal.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. They can cross in the most direct manner as possible. The law does not state that there's it says in the most direct manner as possible.
Correct.
There's no distance designation in the law. It's going to be up to a reasonable officer to say, hey, is this reasonable for you to travel up Fairview all the way? And let me leave you or caution you with this. You let one person do it, the whole town's going to do it. It happens everywhere. You got to be on top of these things. Now, the other thing I was going to ask you all, would you be willing to lower any speed limits, say, on Oñate? I'm not sure what it is now, but I mean, that always looks good if you have a lower speed limit.
Oñate is 45. I'll yield the floor to our planning and land use director, Mr. Hubler.
Yeah, so Paseo Oñate is 45. In fact, all the state roads that we have within the city limits are at 45 or below within the city boundaries. One other thing I would like to draw everyone's attention to, however, and that's on the screen, it's C number 9. And this relates directly to some of the suggestions on the west side, predominantly the Santa Clara Bridge Road and then Paseo Oñate north of the Santa Clara Bridge Road is actually a federal highway. So as number 9 states, aside from, approving or sending this application forward, we'd have to get permission from the Federal Highway Authority if that road was to be part of the route. So it would probably be simpler for the application to leave that particular road off.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, I see your hand up.
No, I'm fine. I'm glad that Mr. Hubler has pointed out that situation. And I feel like in reality, leaving it off is okay because like Chairman Salazar Torres mentioned, Railroad is an alternate and so is North and South Coronado. So I think there's your north to south on this side. I think we need to concern ourselves with north to south on the other side and then a way to get back and forth to both. And I think Mr. Nathan Ortiz's comments concerning the accessibility in the El Llano area is critical. And I feel like connecting the application to the trailheads in the 31 Mile Road is also critical. So those are things that need to be in the application. I think it would be good if we could identify those trails directly and the roads that connect to there in the application. Thank you, sir.
Already, Councilor. So just so I have this correct, we are looking at including Fairview Lane, correct? We are looking at including South McCurdy. We are looking at including the El Llano Road. And that is it, correct?
Let me ask Mr. Ortiz from Game and Fish concerning the area of Paseo de Oñate where somebody would get off of Fairview Lane traveling north. You would still have, well, I guess not. I guess you could go through directly up from the light. So no, I guess that's fine. I don't think there's a need to include any portion of it. Thank you.
Planning and Land Use Director, Mr. Hubler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question probably for Mr. Nathan Ortiz. The trailheads over on the east side by Liano, I'm familiar with. The ones up 31 Mile Road, where is that trailhead, I guess, in relation to where the city road ends, the county road begins, and the private property that's owned by the Bartolome Sanchez land grant? Like where is that trailhead that folks will be traveling to?
Mr. Nathan Ortiz.
Sorry, I was muted. Mr. Hubler, the one that the most people are using is the road. I don't know the exact name of it or the number of the road, but it's the one that goes up by the state police building and goes all the way up into 31 Mile till you get up on the top. That's the only one from the city point of view that I know of. So it'd be right there by the state police.
Yeah, so as that road goes up by state police, it's actually city, and then where it basically hits the end of the pavement, then it transitions to an easement to the county through the Bartolome Sanchez land grant. So we might want to take that into consideration as far as enabling folks to travel to land that the county may or may not allow them to drive on.
Right. So right now, as I had told you guys before, we're in communication and talks with the county. At this point, I have gathered information from other counties that do have ordinances, and at this time, they are going to take a look at those, and they are going to get with their attorneys and going to get on board with this for the community also. So it's looking good on that side too. So we have a bright future with them also.
Do you think, excuse me, sorry, Chairman.
Councilor Peggy Sue, floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Do you think that there's a possibility that a collaborative application from the county and the city is beneficial to the area, or do you feel like the city should just go ahead and go first? That's for Nathan Ortiz.
I would think, honestly, it would probably be beneficial for us to go with the county, and I can bring that to the attention of Commissioner Martinez, Bustos, and see what they feel, if they would want to collaborate with you guys, which from all our talks, they are excited and they really do want to collaborate with the city. So that might be something that we want to look into. And if you'd like, I could take the bull by the horns. I can get in contact with him and then I can contact you guys back.
I think it's important for the staff to remain in the driver's seat on this situation. So any communication about it should probably go through the city manager's office and see where they're at with that. In the meantime, I think it's important for us to go ahead and create the maps of what we're requesting at this point. And you work on the backside on the county and see where they're at that time, and then possibly thinking about doing some kind of collaborative effort at the end of it. Okay. Thank you.
That sounds great. Thank you. I will do that. Thanks.
Officer Ortiz, what, in your experience, what are your thoughts and your advice regarding collaboration between the city and the county?
So, Mr. Chairman, I know the State Transportation Commission takes each application on an individual basis. I believe a collaborative effort would be in your benefit, but I think the first step is to have your representative for the city, whether it's the mayor or the city manager. I would call the State Transportation Commission directly and simply put it, we're looking for state highway, state road use within the city to benefit our constituents. How do you feel, or what's the likelihood compared to other cities that have been denied, I guess? Talk about Farmington, down in Eddy County, some of these similar sized cities. I think it'd be in your best interest to call them first before you go through the whole application, because they may lead you and say, hey, have you ever thought of this route or that route? And then you could kind of narrow it down a little better.
Thank you, Mr. Ortiz. Councilor Manny Martinez, sir, sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you, sir. I guess a question for Mr. Hubler. How many county roads would we be actually looking at if we were to collaborate with them, with Arriba County? Also, if we're looking at the South McCurdy area, we're looking at Santa Fe County. So is there a need to collaborate there with Santa Fe County? Excuse me, also talking into, or we're looking into your Llano area, you're also talking about property that's going to probably be belonging to OK Wingate. So how is that going to come into play? Or is that something we don't have to consider if it's out of city and out of the city limits?
So Councilor Martinez, to answer your question about the county roads, so my comment was related to the fact that one of our proposed routes would put a user onto a county road, since that 31-mile road transitions from city to county. On the other side, the El Llano, that's a state highway as it goes through within the city limits. So my read is that we would be eligible to ask the Highway Commission to allow the use on both South McCurdy and the southern portion of El Llano. I think what's going to be critical as we move forward is to identify, the recreational trailheads that these routes are going to, in order to make the case that we need these particular routes to get to these particular, they identify them as termini, but basically endpoints, where somebody would leave the state highway system and go into, BLM land or private property or whatever the case may be.
Thank you, sir.
Alrighty, counselors, any other questions or comments or concerns regarding this item? Alrighty, so we will ask that city manager, sir, and mayor, myself, will discuss this further tomorrow. That we give them a call, as Mr. Officer Ortiz has stated, to see what our options and see what our odds are. So thank you, Mr. Ortiz. We do appreciate that. We will keep you here just for our following item. Our next item on the agenda is discussion item, implementing guidelines to inform and educate the public as recommended by the Department of Game and Fish. Who is going to present? Already, we have, it says here Chief Roger Jimenez or whoever.
No, Mr. Chair, this is Javier again. Sorry about that. I was muted. I was going to go ahead and start off just like I did with the previous item. So before you on this item, it's pretty much a discussion as to how we internally are going to enforce and promote and educate the public about the new oncoming ordinance that was just passed by the governing body. So before you, there was an email thread, excuse me, between myself and Officer Ortiz in regards to kind of the path forward when I reached out to him about the application. And it just gave us a little bit, I guess, guiding points in regards to how to proceed forward now that we have an ordinance in place in that sense. So with that said, I might yield the floor to Lieutenant Apodaca or maybe even Officer Ortiz to follow up on this.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I believe that Officer Ortiz might be able to best answer this or give you some guidance on this topic.
Mr. Chairman, council members. So, I outlined what I have seen in the last, it got adopted in 2016 and 2017, the pavement ordinance or the pavement statute was amended. And this is what I've seen that works, but there's got to be a lot of follow through, because if not, the constituents, if you will quickly revert back to their old habits. So, I laid them out. Number one, mandate that the police cite for any violations, a zero tolerance. You show them that, and I saw in your ordinance that you do have a zero tolerance policy, which is nice. If we get everybody on board, that's a good start. You have in your ordinance 16 years and up. That has to be clearly stated out there. The Department of Game and Fish off-highway vehicle program has money for signage related to off-highway vehicles on pavement, what is required under the law for helmet, goggles, registration. So if you guys get to that point and you would like signage, we'd be more than happy to help you with that. If you just need the wording, we can give you that as well, whatever you need. A consistent reminder to the public of which roads are allowed and not allowed, because it becomes a free-for-all. As soon as they see one person on it, everybody will be on it, and then you'll have a off-highway vehicle highway. And that's not, the intent of what we're looking for. It would be easier if you weren't surrounded by highway, but it is what it is. So we have to contend with that. Signage, if anybody's been to Red River lately, they've got signage coming and going, reminding the public that, hey, this is off limits to OHV use, or it is allowable. Was there any other specific questions on enforcement or any more guidelines on keeping the public contained, if you will?
Counselors, any questions regarding that?
I have a comment, Chairman.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez?
Thank you. So I agree with Mr. Ortiz that making sure that people understand what roads are available to them and what's the ordinance that the city council has set forth. So I feel like utilizing the radio, of course, the newspaper, of course, and then possibly doing some kind of activity where we have an opportunity to gather a lot of those people in one place. So maybe do like some kind of a kickoff for allowing it, or some kind of something where they all get the rules and everybody is understanding what the situation is, so that we can remain in some control of the situation. So, but I think knowledge is the key. No, it's okay. Knowledge is a key. So I think if people know the law, they want to follow the law. We just need to make sure they know.
So I like where you're going. An ATV jamboree, whatever name you want to call it, but something where you get people together, whether it's a city sponsored deal or you partner with a business, and those are real popular, especially getting the word out. You're like, hey, and swag free. We partner with Los Lunas Open Space and the Village of Los Lunas a lot, and we provide them with a lot of swag. So reminders, we've got OHV bandanas, we've got OHV gaiters, water bottles with well, we don't have t-shirts, but we've got everything that's cheap and kind of cool. A t-shirt would go a long way though. But all of these swag items that we have a message on there. Is register your vehicle, helmet, goggles. It's just something, a little reminder that reminds the public every time they see it, like, oh, okay, helmet, goggles for kids. Okay, that's what we're gonna utilize. But yeah, I like that, and it has to be a couple times a year, if nothing else, 2 times a year, to remind the public that, hey, we're still watching, and we're still enforcing. We're just not a free for all.
Right. I totally agree. So those are some positive ways to keep them involved in what the city is trying to do for them. And we certainly appreciate Nathan Ortiz. I mean, I don't think we would get this far without you. And I just want to recognize that it's so important to get that feedback, especially the immediate feedback that you provided to the council and to the governing body, because you've been the voice for the group, and they have trusted you, and we trust you to give us the information, and we're just trying to do what we can to better serve that community. So just thank you, Nathan, for what you've done in this situation, and I hope to continue to work with you.
Counselor Manny Martinez, sir, I see your hand up.
Thank you, sir. I just, I agree with Councilor Martinez as far as we need to implement as much advertising as we can on this to educate as many people as possible. I would also include, if we can, uh, uh, City Manager Martinez, if we could put some sort of insert into all the water bills, some sort of a flyer stating everything that's about this ordinance. And that way, everybody that's within the city limits would at least get that has a water bill, and just keep pushing at least for the few months through into the summer. It's easy to throw your first bill, but maybe you get the second one and you see that flyer. And of course, signs. I like the idea of signs so people are aware of where you can and where you can't ride these vehicles. Just as an example, over the weekend, I saw about 3 or 4 vehicles in the Century Bank area going through town in that area. So I think, that was something that I had a concern of, that some people, not all people, but there always is some that are going to think that this is an open corridor that now we can just drive all over. And those are the ones that we need to stop, because there's a lot of them that are just for the sake of what they need to do. Like Mr. Ortiz has said, Nathan, they just want to get and do what they got to do. And I'd hate for some of these ones that don't pay attention to that to ruin it for everybody else, sort of say. But I do like the idea of maybe having some sort of a kickoff that we can have and invite. I'm not sure if there's any clubs that some of these riders belong to that might be able to pass along this kind of information as well. Like the way we have the car clubs, motorcycle clubs. I'm not sure if they have clubs as well. And that might be another form of avenue to be able to educate them as far as what our ordinance is, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Martinez. And, one of the things I was thinking about speaking to Mr. Hubler here is, should all this come to pass in discussions when we did the ordinance, they had discussed a cleaning up of the trails and so forth. We do that up in Iliano and the BLM land back there where there's all that junk, and we can do a kickoff there and start by cleaning up first and then informing everybody. That would be great. So that would be, I think, first on my list to coordinate and get all that going once we get this application and so forth through. Councilor Ritchie, any comments, questions, concerns?
I like the direction that we're going in when it comes to the education of having kickoffs, because again, the community will also police itself. And I like that. So I think we're on the right track.
And now, folks that are with us, Councilor Manuel Martinez, Mr. Nathan Ortiz, I see that it has your hand up. Mr. Nathan Ortiz, the floor is yours, sir.
First of all, thank you, Councilor Peggy Martinez, for the kind words. One thing that I have been looking forward and working already with some people from BLM is cleanup days. And as for groups, for Councilor Manny Martinez, we have the Northern New Mexico Dirt Bandits. We also wanted to do some type of kickoff once all this was in place. We wanted to get with Espanola Police Department, Game and Fish, and maybe have something like in the Walmart parking lot, the Lowe's parking lot, have a few bikes out there. It's kind of a show and shine to educate people with maybe some flyers of the cans and can'ts, maybe the city maps that are allowed, that kind of stuff. And that is something that was coming forward. And then councilors, I don't know if you remember, for the council meeting, one of my writing partners, Mark Lopez, he's been working with the U.S. Forest and BLM also to get dumpsters out to certain areas. One of the places is out there behind the high school at the beginning of the trailhead in the BLM out that way. And some of the other trailheads up 76, some of the trailheads up in Alcalde. And we're going to do a cleanup day. We're going to provide hot dogs and waters, and we're going to get everybody to get out there on their bikes and clean up and get all this stuff into the bins. So us as a group, the Northern New Mexico Dirt Bandits, are already looking to do things like that for our community.
All righty. Councilor Ritchie, we'll go ahead and task you to see if we can get a few trash bins. All right. Mr. Officer Ortiz, sir, I see your hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So I forgot to mention, so when people purchase their registration, a portion of that money comes back to the program and we give it back in the form of grants, whether it's overtime for officers up to $15,000 per year. We also give non-law enforcement grants which are geared toward trail improvements, signage, OHV parks. I don't know if you guys had thought this far or you're just trying to get around this part, but any available or vacant land that you could think would be a destination for off-highway vehicles. I mean, that's always enticing, especially if you open up streets, you start getting the community to buy in because now they have a place to ride and recreate and have fun, kind of like not so much a motocross track, but something similar to what other cities have. But for next year, starting in December, we put out the off-highway vehicle law enforcement and non-law enforcement grants up to $15,000. So if that's something that interests you all, I'll welcome your application.
Sounds good. Thank you, Officer Ortiz. We greatly
Certainly.
appreciate you and all your knowledge regarding this. I don't think we get this far either without you, so we greatly appreciate you.
You're welcome.
I do not see any other mics unmuted. Oh, excuse me, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
I just wanted real quick, I don't want to go dive into this too deeply, but I just want to touch base with Mr. Hubler concerning at one time, the city had been working with UNM to possibly do some type of a dirt trail up there at the old dump in the Oleano area. So could we just hear from him real quick, a little bit about that scenario and see if there's been anything ongoing with that, or to see if that has been completely scratched?
Thank you, Councilor. So that we're in the process. There's a time frame on the city to regain control of that property from the BLM, and the next portion of that comes in 2023. So that was actually related to the comment about creating a park or a use area. That was the first thing that popped into my mind as something that we'll consider moving forward as part of rehabbing that facility and making a trail for these off-highway vehicles up there, perhaps.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Hubler. Appreciate that.
All righty. Looks like we have no other hands up or mics unmuted, so we will go ahead and move on. Mr. Nathan Ortiz, and again, Officer Ortiz, we greatly appreciate you guys for joining us this evening.
You're welcome. And my number is always available. So if you guys need a question answered quickly, feel free to call.
Thank you. Thank you.
And same with mine. You guys all know my numbers, emails. If I can help out in any way, if you have any questions, also Officer Ortiz, if I can help out in any way in this area, feel free. Thank you. Have a good night.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
All righty, we will move on to our department reports. Up in the hot seat would be Your Honor, Mr. Martin Martinez, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council members, good to be here with you tonight. We have in the municipal court, we conducted a complete inventory or analysis of both the administrative and the judicial branches of the court itself. With that analysis, with that inventory, we first addressed the critical issues. On the judicial side, there were cases, for example, with statutory limitations. The service of warrants had been frozen. And in fact, the police department had in essence been asked to take all cases to the magistrate court because the municipal court was closed. We are now fully operational. The department is now bringing their current enforcement and prosecution cases to us. They are also enforcing the warrants, the court's warrants again, because we're able to deal with arrestees within a day or a couple of days after they're arrested. We've also identified something like a little over 1,200 old cases. They go back as far as 2002. Some of those old cases, some of the number of those cases will have warrants. I don't want to say that, well, I'll just come out and say it. 20-year-old warrants are still warrants. But in order to address those cases, we're going to have to take each case and address it individually to see what's in the file. Are there any warrants? Are there any bonds? So we're going to do that going back and moving forward to take care of the old files. We're going to go forward and move backwards to take care of the current files. In addition to that, we're also looking at all of our staff and our departments only in terms of how we can improve them. For example, with regards to our teen court, we intend to expand that program considerably. See if we can, how many more teens we might be able to help, say within a 6-9 month period. We're doing the same with other programs within the department. One major issue that I've discovered is with regards to defendants. They are, by and large, a substantial portion of them do not comply with court orders. We've issued summons after summons. Some clients have 2 or 3 summons and a warrant, and they just can't seem to get compliance. I shouldn't say we. There didn't appear to be a very successful compliant process. We are addressing it and will address it. And folks that we're coming in contact with are coming to understand that when they receive a court order, that court order must be obeyed. I think I've handled maybe 45 cases since I've been there, since we opened the courthouse, and at least 1/3 of those cases were no-shows. In any case, that's just a point that I'm making in terms of where we're headed with the judicial branch of the court. We're also, again, addressing financial matters on the administrative side. Essentially, that's a broad overview of where we've come. I've worked Anne and Sharon are exceptional employees. I work very close with Sharon to take care of the legal aspects, of the judicial aspects, and with Anne, take care of the administrative and personnel matters. We don't have personnel issues, but we're working with individuals as we address our goals and objectives for the various departments. I'm addressing you folks tonight in generalities, because basically that's what we've been working on since I got there. If you folks I mean, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Now, I believe you folks have the report for FY 2020-21, July through March. It gives you an idea of what the activity of the court itself. Total fines, for example, in March 2021 were $4,521. Total fees and the total fees was $3,074. Then the year to date through July and March, $46,025.75. That's for fines and community service equivalent. We credit defendants $7.50 per hour for doing community service. So that figure I just read includes the hours served for community service. The total, therefore, on the fines, fees, and community service is total to date is $57,902. And again, that's through July and March. We'll be submitting the April report within the next few days. Mr. Chairman, that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you, Your Honor. We do appreciate you. I will yield the floor to fellow counselors within this committee if they have any questions, concerns, or comments for your department. We'll start first with Counselor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Honorable Judge Martinez. That was a great report. I'm glad to see that you really jumped in it with both feet straight ahead. I'd have no questions at this time. I think you're doing a great job, and I knew you were going to have a lot of work to do, but I didn't realize it was went back that far, especially on those cases. But I'm glad to see that you're hitting them with both feet, sir. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor Manny Martinez. We will go to Counselor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chair. Your Honor, I haven't officially recognized you, and again, congratulations in taking over the courtship there. And you do have your work cut out, and we look forward to working with you. And thank you for the report.
Thank you, Counselor
Thank you,
Ritchie.
Counselor Ritchie.
We will go on to Counselor Madam Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Chairman Torres Salazar. Honorable Judge Martinez, first and foremost, thank you for your commitment to our constituency and to the community at large. We look forward to working with you. Each and every one of us wishes you the most success, because the more successful you are in your position, the better it is for our entire community. So we wish you the utmost success. I'm happy to hear about what you've done thus far, and excited to learn what the future brings with you in that position. I find it interesting that you want to elaborate on the teen court situation. I think that is really, really a good thing. I feel like if we can get some of these kids involved early and understanding the court system, the judicial part of our government, I think that we can eliminate situations that you have of people not showing up for court and not understanding that a summons is a summons and you have no choice in the matter. You got to be there. So I think it's important for us to do as much as we can with educating the youth and having them understand how a court system works. So kudos to you for wanting to build off of that. I too want to recognize your staff, because I feel like, the hardest thing in the world is to continue in your job and to have a different leadership and a new person at the helm. It has to be very difficult to have to change the way that you do things or have to adjust to different ways of doing things. So of course we want to recognize Anna and the rest of the staff for everything that they're doing there. I know that you have a staff that is committed and they want to do right by our community also. So we look forward to continuing with them. I do have some concerns about some graffiti. I will be emailing you tomorrow with the addresses. We have some signs here on the west side, District 1 and District 2, that have been spray painted on the backside of stop signs. So I will send you an email tomorrow with that information so that possibly you could have the graffiti guy get on top of that situation and get that cleaned up as soon as possible. But I do thank you so much for your professionalism, and I believe in my whole heart with everything that I am that you are the guy for that job, and we wish you the very best, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor, and as soon as I receive your email, we'll address that graffiti problem immediately.
Sí, bueno.
All righty. Thank you, counselors. Any other, Counselor Manny Martinez?
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask a question. If any cleanup days have been set forth for the upcoming future, or what does the community services look like as far as having people that need community service out there to help with the cleaning of our city, especially I know that we have had a lot of wind problems, especially in the Walmart area, and there's a lot of debris that is blown across the highway. So I don't know if we've had, or if we will be having any community services in that area, sir.
Absolutely. I've been working with our community service coordinator. One of the issues that was well, it was a real problem, was COVID, and bringing community service personnel or defendants in contact with our community service coordinators. And of course, the other problem was the one I mentioned earlier, non-compliance. But I am going to personally address the issue of non-compliance. And in the meantime, we're addressing, coincidentally, we just received guidance from the New Mexico Supreme Court. It's a substantial packet for the courts on how to deal with COVID as it relates to defendants, to non-defendants, but civilians and employees. And I did briefly, I saw a section there that specifically addressed community service defendants. That was kind of long-winded. My point, to summarize, yes, we will be addressing those issues, and we will be taking our community service personnel out wherever they're needed. If you would like us to address a specific area or a specific part of town, please send me an email.
Okay.
I'd appreciate it.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
All righty. Let me see. I see no other counselors' mics unmuted. So, Honorable Mr. Martinez, we do appreciate you. Thank you for everything, and we are at your disposal as well with whatever you need.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Have yourself a good evening, sir. Next up under department reports is planning and land use. I do not see Justina on with us. So Mr. Hubler, is that going to be you, sir?
That is correct. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Floor is yours, sir.
So before us, you have the report on the code enforcement actions. I just wanted to highlight a couple items. As you can see, during the month of April, we actually created 43 new cases. And the way we're tracking these this year is a little different from last year. A case is the same case as it works all the way through various notices. So we sent out substantially more notices than that, although this tracks how the breakdown was for this month, that of those cases, a number were of first notice. And that's generally the case. We generally get compliance from most folks following that first notice once we kind of bring it to their attention. Just to let the members of the committee know, as of April 30th, we actually have 147 cases that have been created this calendar year. So Justina is very active, and she's out there in the community working to help bring folks into compliance. And then the third slide just kind of addresses some of the things that we've been working on, enhancing some training. We did go, our whole office actually went to a training with the police department last week. So I'd like to give a shout out to them as far as dealing with the mentally ill. We've walked through several properties with the CID inspector, including some that ended up being condemned. As of the point of this meeting or this packet going together last week, we actually had not had a chance to meet with our new judge, and that happened yesterday. It was a very effective meeting, and we were very happy to hear the same thing that he told this body tonight, that the municipal court is open for business and ready to proceed. We've got about a dozen cases that we'll be filing next week to move forward on some of our folks that aren't interested in coming into compliance. So that kind of completes the information I wanted to present, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
All righty, counselors. Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
I just want to thank Mr. Hubler for the presentation, and also the staff, especially Justine, for the work that she's doing. I know that she's been very busy, and I do see her in town at least two times a day. So I know that she's out there, and we certainly appreciate that. And just thank you for all the work that you're doing, and make sure that the staff understands that we appreciate them. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'll pass it
All righty.
along.
Counselor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chair. Likewise, thank you guys for the effort in the department. I also just wanted to, as you're going through town, I know that we're just starting the weed season, but they're popping up, and we're just how we can address that and stay on top of that within our areas as a city that the city owns, and then working with the businesses to help keep the fronts looking clean. That's all I have. Thank you.
Follow up,
Thank you,
sir.
Counselor.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
That's something that I wanted to touch base on with Mr. Hubler, actually, concerning the landscape of different businesses that are in the main, specifically CVS and other properties that have landscape that it just has not been upkept, and just get an idea if the city is sending them letters, or how are we handling that, sir?
Yes, thank you, counselors. As indicated, we are getting into the weed season, and certainly the city has a responsibility to set the example there. We're actually just having a conversation in our office this afternoon about that. And when we do a good job, it obviously makes it easier to ask others, particularly those kind of keystone businesses in our community. We did, as part of the city cleanup that city manager organized a few weekends back, start at CVS and took advantage of that to go in and meet and communicate with the new general manager there. So in addition to kind of the notice of violations that get sent, and we have sent one, we've also been working on establishing those personal relationships as possible to kind of help encourage folks to get stuff done. And the businesses are a bit tricky. If they've got money and staff or contractors lined up for that stuff, they tend to look great. If we required them to put in landscaping years back and we haven't done as good a job as we could have in the intervening time to require them to maintain it, then it doesn't look so great. And so we are working on kind of our landscape standards in general, and particularly on enforcing kind of the maintenance of landscaping throughout the city at those businesses. And then we're also working with one of the things that Justina noted on here is working with resources. There's a partnership with the Habitat for Humanity, and I believe it's called the Forest Steward Guild, that's doing some particularly like fire-wise and fire mitigation kind of work for individuals throughout the city. So we're working to connect those properties with those resources, as appropriate as well, because sometimes that can help the private landowners deal with some of that weed or brush buildup in their yards.
Yes,
Alrighty.
of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Hubler. Counselor Manny Martinez, questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Mr. Huber, I have to agree with with Councilor Ritchie. I think we do need to lead by example, as they say. Now with weed season coming in, and we make sure that all the properties that the city does own is kept up, as well as the parks. I know that's not your area, but I think it's very important that we convey that to the other departments, that we do need to upkeep the city areas, of course, the sweeping of the streets, and perhaps painting where we need to paint, because that's one thing that I have heard in the past is some of the constituents that said, oh, I get a citation for not keeping up my yard, but yet the city doesn't clean their own weeds, and so I think it is important that we do lead by example and see if maybe we can convey that to some of our other departments. I know it's a tough job, it's a hard job, and we do appreciate everything everybody does, but I think we do need to lead by example in that manner, sir. Thank you.
I totally agree. Thank you.
All righty, councilors. Any other questions, comments, concerns for Director Hubler? I see no mics unmuted. So, Mr. Hubler, we do appreciate all that you do. Do you have anything else for your presentation, sir? All righty. Thank you, sir. Have yourself a good evening.
Thank you.
All righty. Up next in the hot seat, we have with us Project Race, and I'm not sure if Justine's presenting or whom. I don't see a name. I just see Project Race.
Good evening, chair, members of the committee. It's Justine. Sorry about that.
All righty.
So in your packing material, you should have 3 attachments. One was our original packing material that we usually provide, which has our life skills and everything that we do throughout the month. There was another attachment that was a snapshot photo of the OD maps, of what that kind of looks like, where the hot spots are in Arriba County. And then there was another attachment along with the OD maps. It was an Excel spreadsheet that is kind of labeled from all the way from where the report is coming from, all the way to if it was an overdose, what they overdosed on, where it was at, what time did it happen, stuff like that. So is there any questions regarding the packing material?
Councilors, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez, we'll start with you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Justine. First and foremost, thank you for creating the packet for us. We certainly appreciate that, and we certainly appreciate any information that we get in the packet, because that's what tells the whole story. But I'm in the older group of you guys, and I just need a bigger font on that situation on that last page. I could barely read it, blowing it completely up. So if you could just use a bigger font on that back part so that the information is more legible, please. Other than that, it's a very interesting map, especially when you consider the majority of the information and the overdoses is right in the middle of our community. So that's very concerning. Of course, we're very concerned about that. I feel like we need to turn this information around and utilize it to benefit the community, and try and look for some grants that this information can help us with. So other than that, certainly appreciate what you're doing, and just continue to move with the youth and try and be a force in what they're doing, and how we can get them to not become part of the stats and create that yellow light in the middle of that map to get bigger, brighter. So appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilor Peggy.
Councilor Peggy Sue, I just want to let you know that Councilor Ritchie is in here squinting too, so you're not alone. Councilor Ritchie, the floor is yours, sir.
No comment because I can't see. No, again, Justine, thank you for all the work you're doing and bringing the information to us. We have some concerns, and I know your programs are an effort, but we have to enlighten our community and educate to help control our problem that we have in our valley. Again, thank you for all your effort.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. My apologies on the font on that Excel spreadsheet. I know when I was creating the report, it was kind of hard for me to blow it up. So definitely for next time with new stats, I'll definitely see what tweaking I could do to blow that up.
Alrighty, thank you. Councillor Manny Martinez.
Thank you, Chair. I really don't see what my older counterparts are talking about here because I can see pretty well.
Yeah,
Except-
yeah, you're lying,
except
brother.
I do have to take off my glasses to see it, though, just so you know.
Manny, you're as old as I am, so I know you're not telling the truth, brother.
But I don't know. Thank you. You're doing a heck of a job, a lot of work. It is disheartening to see those numbers and see where they're coming from. I wish there was a way we can wish this problem away, but obviously we can't. But we're gonna have to work as hard as we can, and we're here to support you, Ms. Justine, with what we can do to help combat this issue, and hopefully get a lot of these people help. My question would be: have any of these people that have had these that did OD, were any of them sent to Darren's place? Now that we do have this facility in town, did we have any of those people actually maybe start that program, or do we have any numbers on that, ma'am?
So Councillor Manny, I'm not too sure. That would be something to ask Chief Jimenez, as he is the main admin holder of this database. So he sees that more in depth than what I would. All I take care of is every month I get reports from the police department with the officers that were in charge of the specific incident. And I input that data into the OD map. So as far as going that further into depth, I'm not too sure on that part, but that definitely is something that we could look into. And based off the reports of who is, ODing out there, we could definitely see how we could get them the help that they need. I don't see that being a problem.
Okay, thank you. Because you see these numbers, and it is frustrating to see. But we need to see how we can take it just a little bit further, I think, and make sure. I mean, we can't force them to get help, but just at least we can have an idea of, if we could have an idea of out of 100 people, 50 were recommended, 25 actually went through a program, and even 50% said, I don't want nothing to do with anything. At least we would know where we kind of stand on this issue and concentrate our efforts where they might be most profitable as far as a success rate. Because we can't force people to get help, but the ones that do are reaching for help, and maybe those are the ones we need to start with. Thank you. And again, thank you and your staff.
Thank you. And I know that looking at that last attachment on that Excel spreadsheet, when the reports come in, some of them are hard to kind of tell what was the suspected drug, what caused them to overdose. So on the reports, there are narratives that the officers put on there that state, okay, they did the investigating, they passed away from underlying, health conditions that, yes, substances were used, such as, opioids. But as far as being more in depth, I know that we need to kind of work on this system to get more in depth reports. And I know Chief Jimenez is they're working with some database on their end to get a more a more in-depth generated report. So that way we could see, okay, what is a suspected drug? Was there other drugs involved? Was this victim was this a victim a part of multiple overdoses, or was naloxone administered? Did they get taken to the hospital? And a lot of the times the reports don't say that kind of information. So that's where I'm kind of having trouble with trying to find that information out. So, I mean, this is still, learning in progress. We still are trying to see what works, what doesn't work. So, what you said, Councilor Manny Martinez, I think that is something that we could bring to the table in the future, where we could actually get these people the help that they need.
I've got a question. Does this report, now that it's zoomed in a little bit, show which ODs are accidental? For example, I see that it's one of them says like over-the-counter meds, right? Not sure if that may have been an accidental OD or if it was intentional, or whatever the proper word may be. So is there a way to know?
That's it. Going back to the reports, it just depends on what the officer puts on that narrative on the report. That's where we pretty much get all our in-depth information. What kind of drug it was, if it was drug related, if it was a health issue, whatever it may be, that's where we would find that. So when we put over-the-counter drugs, which would be pills, we would put that because if it is an overdose, we suspect that's what they overdosed on. And that's what the officer puts in the report. They suspected that this victim overdosed on opioids, but we can't tell if it was intentional or accidental, or if it was an attempted suicide.
Okay, great. I just was curious.
Yeah.
Counselors, any other questions, comments, concerns? I see no mics being unmuted. Justine, do you have anything else for your report?
So I do just have one more thing. We recently did just hire the student outreach coordinator position. Veronica Marufo, she did start with us on Monday of this week. So I was gonna have her attend this evening to introduce herself to you guys and just give a quick introduction of herself and her background. But I will have her come with me to next month's meeting just so she could introduce herself to the committee. And we are fully staffed now, so yay. Because
Nice.
we've been a couple months with not fully staffed, so now we're fully staffed and now we could start doing all the things that we hope to do now in the summer with the students in the community.
Great. Thank you so much. We do appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have yourself a good evening. All righty. Next up under our department reports is the police department. We have with us Lieutenant Jeremy Apodaca. The floor is yours, sir, and also Lieutenant Richard Trujillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Before you, you have the incident stats and stats for the police department. Please let me know if you have any questions on any of these.
Counselors, questions regarding the stats? I see no mics being unmuted. All righty, we are good to go, sir.
Okay. I'd like to move on, if there's no questions, to updates from our department.
Sure.
As I mentioned earlier, we have our speed trailer, one of them out of two right now, deployed in the Valley Estates subdivision. We have a second one that we will be getting some updated maintenance on, and that one will be deployed also. That way we can cover more ground. This speed trailer tracks data for us. We're going to evaluate that data from this area that it's in right now, and then we're going to be moving it very soon. Once we compile all this data, that's how we'll use the trailers and deploy them based off of that data that we gather, as well as just getting it out into different neighborhoods and areas of the city. Next up is we hired 2 new officers. They're on the streets right now, going through their FTO phase. That's a field training. They're doing a great job. They're learning every day. There's new things for them. Next thing on the list would be, I think something important to note is that there has been a recent arrest, very recent, from the homicide which occurred last Friday. I can't get into too many details on that as it's still a very active investigation, but I think that that's great. Our detectives and officers have been doing an outstanding job staying on top of this. And I really believe that it's helping keep our community and citizens safe. Moving on, our officer. Yes, Councilor Martinez.
Thank you. I know you can't elaborate too much on that homicide, but was that homicide within city limits or was it outside city limits, sir?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, that did occur within the city limits of Espanola. This past week, we also did partake in assisting with the funeral procession for Arriba Sheriff's Office, Deputy Andy Gutierrez. I'd like to note that our hearts go out to his family and his coworkers. It was a very deep tragedy for us here in the Valley. Moving on to some lighter news and good news. We are continuing to upfit and outfit our MRAP, which I know that Chief Jimenez had mentioned prior. That vehicle is getting some equipment put on it that will greatly help us out, keep personnel safe, and it's going to be a great asset to our department. With that, we're also continuing to update our equipment and our fleet. We have some newer police vehicles that are in our fleet. They're going to be upfitted here very soon and get them out on the road, and they'll help the officers and the community, and they will mirror the units that we have right now as far as graphics and equipment goes. That's really all that we have in the police department going on. Is there any questions for us?
Thank you, Lieutenant. Councilor Manny Martinez.
I thank all the officers for want to convey our officer, Arriba County Sheriff, that passed away. So, but we do thank you, sir, for all the great job that you guys are doing out there, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Ritchie.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to thank you. I see as I go through town, I do see more patrol units out there. I appreciate that. And again, thank you for all your effort and stay safe. And again, our prayers for the officer and especially for Rio Arriba family there. Our condolences and prayers for the family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you both for your presentation and thank you for attending our meeting on behalf of the chief and the DC. I'm also in agreement with my fellow councilors. Definitely we're concerned anytime an officer loses his life, whether it's in the line of duty or not, it's a loss to our community at large. So we definitely send our condolences to the family on that situation. Concerning a question that I have with the amount of officers listed here, there's obviously a lot of officers, but when we look at the judge's report concerning the citation, there's only 5 or 6 officers involved in the citation. So I'm just curious as to where you guys are at with the protocol with COVID now. Are you guys back to starting to cite people and get back out on traffic, or what's going on with that? Can you fill us in on that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Councilor. So, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, as far as the stats go and the number of officers that are issuing citations, irregardless of COVID, we still are, enforcing the laws and the ordinances of the city, of course, the laws of the state, but we're starting to ramp it up a little bit more now. Several of our officers have been vaccinated. Several others are continuing to test just to make sure everything's safe. But I think a lot of it right now, from what you're seeing on those numbers, is just the transition phase from one judge to another. We were initially going
Right.
to the
Right.
magistrate court, but I'm sure those
Right.
numbers will ramp up.
Well, my concern is really, of course, first and foremost, your safety and well-being. Of course, we want that. We want to make sure that everybody's masking when they're having an interaction with anybody, especially at a window of a vehicle, just for safety protocol purposes, and making sure that we are keeping the subject that's being stopped safe and keeping the officer safe, of course. I realize that these are March's stats, and it is possible that because of the situation, a lot of that could have gone to magistrate. So that does make a lot of sense. But I do hope to see that our officers start to really get back at traffic and start to do whatever they can to keep our people safe on the roads. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All righty. Counselor Manny Martinez, I see your mic unmuted and your hand up, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. On that note, with Councilor Martinez, now that we did pass that ordinance with the OHVs, have you noticed an increase in town with this? Have you guys had to cite any people? Of course, now that we have an ordinance for certain areas, but not on the main streets, I just want to know if there's been any movement on that as far as people being in town now that word gets through. Also, I just want to see our Councilor Martinez mentioned the stats from the Honorable Judge Martinez to see if our department is sending these tickets or these citations to municipal court, sir, versus magistrate.
Mr. Counselor, thank you for the question. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I think as far as your question goes as to like us interacting with more of these off-highway vehicles within the city limits, I think it's kind of standard for what we've seen in years past, just with the change of the weather and the season, it's kind of coming into the season for them. As far as citing these operators, we're taking the initial approach to educate them first. We'd much rather have a good working relationship and, just let them know this is what's legal right now. This is what's not. And if we continue to experience interactions with certain individuals on a case-by-case basis, really, then we will move towards citing and any type of enforcement action that's needed. This is a great time, I think, for us to cite into the municipal court, especially with things like this. As we develop this new plan really for the OHVs and how we're going to handle that, I think we're going to work great hand in hand with the municipal court and any citations that come out of this.
Mr. Apodaca, I do have a question, and I know a couple councils have touched on this already, but regarding citations to municipal court and versus magistrate, I do know that municipal court did ask that a lot of the citation that all citations go to magistrate due to an audit being done in-house. Has that since hit its sunset, expired as of yet? Did they give a certain date that they wanted that to start again?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Members of the committee, I do not know if that has expired as of yet. That's something that I would have to defer to the to judge about, but yeah, that's, if that still is in effect, then that's probably also a good cause for the numbers being low into the municipal court at this point. But
okay, and I just wanted to make it known that there was an agreement that had been asked from municipal court that in the meantime they were going to do an in-house audit. So just so fellow councilors know, that's probably why the numbers were so low as presented before us and by the Honorable Martinez. So, and that's all right, Mr. Apulak. I just wanted to let council know that that was one of the agreements that had come before us before.
Thank you, sir.
Councilors, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez?
Thank you for the follow-up opportunity, Mr. Chairman Salazar Torres. And thank you for the presentation, officers. So I do have a question concerning an odor that is on the west side, and I don't know if you guys have received any calls on it, but I have received numerous concerns from District 1 area near the Espanola Public Schools area where the administration office is off of Hunter and off of those streets down there. There's a foul odor of something dead in that area, and I received numerous calls about it, and I'm wondering if the department has received any of those, or 911 has gotten any of those, or if the fire department or the police department has been gone out in that area. And I've been told that the odor is horrible at night, that people have not been able to open their front door for the last 2 weeks. So I'm just very concerned about that situation. I wonder if any of you have heard anything about that.
Madam Counselor, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I can't think of any specific complaints or reports that we've handled in regards to an odor in that area. However, I will have it checked out immediately. You mentioned that it's more at night, in the nighttime hours. Is that what?
Yes, I've been told that the odor is much worse at night, that it is in the area of the Hunter and the old high school property where the administration office is at this time. So there's a couple of cross streets behind the Rio Grande Sun in that area there. That area in there is the area of concern, that it's horrific that people have not been able to open their doors at all. So maybe send somebody out there. Let's find out what the cause of that is and try and resolve that for them. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All righty. Thank you, Councilor Peggy Sue Martinez. Councilor, excuse me, Chief Padilla. I see your hand up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. We have received several calls on that. We have done several drive arounds with the different crews that have been on, and we can't pinpoint it. Sometimes we smell something, and then other times we don't smell anything. So I don't have a clue. We have done and searched, so I guess it's gonna be something ongoing.
It's going to be kind of cheesy, but as long as it doesn't smell like rotten eggs, because then that's a gas leak, according to all the advertising on Que Dice.
I have actually had the same smell, but I haven't smelt it at night as much as I have in the middle of the day. And I actually thought it was a dead animal in my neighborhood. But I've made the rounds here, and it wasn't until I received the calls from 3 different people in that area, District 1, that are very concerned about that smell. So I think we need to figure it out as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilors, any other questions, comments, or concerns? I do not see any mics unmuted or hands being raised. So lieutenants, we do appreciate you all. Have yourselves a wonderful evening and stay safe.
Thank you.
All righty. Up next is Chief Padilla.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. First we have here is our stats for the month of April, March and April. We are busy for sure. Fire danger has been extreme up until we received this rain or the moisture, but I expected if we don't get a couple of more rainstorms within the next couple of weeks, we're probably going to have anywhere from about 10 weeks of extreme fire danger. So we're addressing that and speaking with Santa Fe County as the days go by. Stan, for any questions on stats?
Counselors, any questions regarding the stats for the fire department? I do not see any mics being unmuted or hands being raised, so Chief, you may continue.
Okay, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we did have some budget hearings today for the fire department. I did request for, I think it is at this point imperative that we do obtain this fire marshal for the city. It's something that needs to happen. The 3 guys that are doing fire inspections are doing these inspections and trying to get them done while they're on duty. And it keeps them pretty busy. It's a long process to go in and inspect, as well as write up the inspection and then get it over to planning and zoning to get it back to the business owner, and then go out and do a follow-up within 30 days, as well as them performing their other job duties while they're on duty. So I got to give it up to the 3 inspectors that have been taking on the extra task without complaining. Has been Lieutenant Johnny Martinez, firefighter Stephen George, and firefighter Pablo Montoya. And I'd like to tell them thank you for taking on this task. It is very important that we make sure that our city businesses are following the NFPA, the IFC code 2015 to protect our citizens and visitors here in the city of Espanola, and make sure they're following the rules and have all the safety measures in their businesses. I also discussed with them about our 5-year, the fire department's 5-year plan. Again, I am would like to, if any of you guys would like to call me, I would like to discuss this in more detail with you guys and give you some stats on what we're providing with what we have to our community. We are the only paid fire department in the area, next to Santa Fe County, and other departments or volunteer departments rely on us. Last month, Arriba County got busy with some wildland fires, and we were sent 2 guys. So out of our district to fight a structure fire in Alcalde. And then that next weekend, there was another structure fire that was in La Mesilla, and it was a gentleman burning weeds, and it got away from him, and he burned down his house. And it was totally unfortunate. Nobody was hurt or injured or killed, but he did lose his home. And we were out there fighting that in Arriba County. So we're real busy, and we're extending ourselves to these other departments. I will say that again, we need to hire 3 firefighters every year for the next 5 years. It's not, we need 15 firefighters per single dwelling residential structure. 15, not 15 total, 15 a shift. And that's what's going to keep first of all, our firefighters safe so they can do their job. Second of all, protect life and property. So we need to really start going in that direction. We have not moved in a direction to grow this department in some years now, and we need to move in that direction. And the start is hiring this fire marshal, and then start adding personnel. I do have some ideas. Again, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, please call me so I can really go over those numbers of our NFPA 1710 and what we're supposed to have on our trucks and the percentage of what we're meeting to meet those criterias. We're not meeting those criterias at this point. And I want to start moving in the direction to meet those criterias. And you'll be, once I give you those numbers and sit down with you, I think you guys would be astonished. So we have some personnel issues that we really need to address. With that being said, that if we can address these personnel issue and staffing issues, if we can do that and bring down our ISO from a 5 to a 4, we do up our allotment from the State Fire Marshal's office. We get more money, as well as provide savings to the city's commercial buildings, as well as the city's residential buildings. Again, I will speak off of Middle San Pedro. One house on the south side is in Arriba County. One house is on the north side in the city of Espanola. The person that owns his house in the city of Espanola pays anywhere from $700 to $900 a year in homeowner insurance, and across the street they pay $1,800, twice that price, because they are not in our district. So you being in our district or being within the city of Espanola, we have provided a Class 5 ISO, which provides you with better homeowners insurance. And these firefighters that are in the field, they are they're second to none. These guys are experienced. They have seen it all, and they're learning. We learn every day within the fire service, and they're very, very good at what they do, as well as taking on extra tasks and not complaining. Does anybody have any questions?
Counselors?
I have a
Counselor-
question, please.
Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez?
I'll yield to my fellow counselors and then I'll come back to me. Thank you, Chair.
Counselor Manny Martinez?
No questions at this time, sir.
Counselor Richie?
No questions, Chair.
Alrighty, Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, Chairman. Chief, I'm curious to know what's happening with fireworks being blown around our community all year long. I have a constituent here on the west side near the Sacred Heart Parish where there's a neighbor that is consistently blowing fireworks every single night. She has a young puppy that is totally and completely traumatized by this. And I'm wondering what we're doing about this. Do you know anything going on about that?
Like I said, Mr. Chair, Madam Counselor, unless we see them doing it and we can't find out who these people are, it's very hard. And throughout the years, it's very hard to catch these people. I've been out there in the evenings. I've driven around a couple of times. I haven't seen them. My staff has driven around a bit as per our last conversation, and when we're there, they don't shoot them off, and that happens every year. We'll get a complaint off of North McCurdy, and we go on out there and they won't set them off, but once we leave, they set them off again. I mean, I wish there was a way that we could just pinpoint these people out, but it's once we get there, I've tried to go in my vehicle so they don't actually see a big fire truck coming. It's till we can actually see them and catch who it is. It's very hard to pinpoint those unless you think you know where it's at or somebody has an idea of an address. Then I can try to address it at that point. I can address that on my own with an officer.
Thank you very much, Chief.
All righty, counselors, any other questions, comments, or concerns for Chief Padilla? I see no other mics being unmuted. Chief, you have anything else in your presentation, sir?
Yes, I'd like to actually thank Santa Fe County. We've been I have a new rookie firefighter cadet that came in. He needed to take his Fire 2, Fire 1, Fire 2 certification. And Santa Fe County was having an academy, a full-fledged 16-week academy, where this gentleman will get everything from his hazardous material, Fire 1, Fire 2, pump operations, his S-130, 190 Wildland, several other things, as well as his EMT basic. I have received several, I've talked to Chief Black with Santa Fe County, and from what I'm hearing, he's doing very, very well and then in the top of his class. And we're very proud of that coming from here from the Valley of Española. So we're I'm expanding and trying to use all the resources that I have to benefit our fire department, as well as networking with networking with our other departments. I just thought I'd let you know that. So that was kind of just a diamond in the rough, how it just happened. It was one day it was talked about, and the next day he was there. And if you would indulge me, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee, I would like to send my condolences out to Andy Chavez's family. He was a long friend. His dad was a really good friend of mine, and it's a deep loss in our law enforcement and first responder community. And may God be with him, and God bless his family. The other part I would like to say is I am so proud of our law enforcement. We were out with them on last Friday on State Road 76. I'm absolutely proud to say that I'm part of the city of Española and the law enforcement, how these guys reacted with state police and top notch as we all work together. Throughout some of the interactions we had with law enforcement, we did do we stood by with them while they were training and doing a roadblock for a DWI roadblock. And some of the officers from out of town talked to me and said, or to some of our firefighters, it was like, you guys get along this well with your law enforcement? I says, yeah, we're together all the time. If they're not at the station eating, they're washing their trucks, or we're together. We have a really close knit, and I'm pretty proud of that, being the fire chief and coming up the ranks with like Mr. Trujillo and Jeremy, and I couldn't work in a better place. And thank you guys for letting me do that.
Councilor Manny Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Padilla, Chief Padilla, thank you for all that you just said there, because that means so much to be able to hear that, how well you guys all work together, and because that's what's going to always make our public safety department successful, is how you guys work together and work well together. So I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you guys, and please convey that to all your staff, and how much we appreciate you and appreciate how you guys work together to get the things done that you guys need to do. And I know it's not easy. By no means is it easy for either department. And so I really appreciate you guys, and really appreciate the fact that how well you guys work together, sir. So thank you guys.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Any other counselors that have questions, comments, or concerns? All right, I see no mics being unmuted or no hands being up. So Chief, anything else you'd like to add, sir?
Nope, we're good.
You have yourself a good evening, and we
You do the
appreciate you.
same.
Stay safe. Alrighty, counselors, before you is our next meeting tentatively scheduled again for June 2nd. Is that all right with everybody's schedule? Alrighty, get thumbs up from Counselor Manny Martinez, Counselor Richie. Thumbs up, Counselor Peggy Sue Martinez.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Alrighty, and again, so please, counselors, be expecting an email from Victoria regarding our, we'll say, Public Safety Committee Appreciation Meeting. And we will coordinate with I'll coordinate with all departments, and then we will go with forwarding an email to everybody. And please, again, be here in person for that meeting, just so we can appreciate everybody. Counselors, have a good evening. If I can get a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved, sir.
All righty, we've got a motion from Richie and Councilman Manny Martinez, and we're good to go. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Have a great evening.